Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer all of your Detroit Lions questions. We are finally almost there. We're recording this on Tuesday night before the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay. So guess what this podcast is going to be all about? Probably the draft, as we answer your questions that are submitted either through Pride of Detroit Direct, our premium newsletter, which you can sign up for at prideofdetroit.com/subscribe, or via Twitter. You can just add us and ask your questions when we put out a call, usually on a Tuesday or Wednesday morning. My name, by the way, is Jeremy Reisman. You can follow me at Detroit Online on socials. With me, as always, is, for the last time, the general manager of Pride of Detroit, then back to managing editor. You can find him at Erik Schlitt. He's also known as The Machine. It's Erik Schlitt. How we doing, buddy?
Yeah, I have a feeling you're going to default back to general manager in the very near future. But yeah, we'll go with that. Should title change?
Director of Grit Scouting. How's that work?
I will take all the nicknames available. Thank you.
Well, as I mentioned, yes, it's draft time. We're answering exclusively draft questions for this entire podcast. And let's get started. Let's just jump right into it. At SilverRush125 on Twitter asks, I think most would agree that our top 5 needs, in no particular order, are defensive end, guard, safety, wide receiver, defensive tackle. I do think that's fair. It says, regardless of which is most needed, if Brad were to make a pick from all 5 positions, in what order do you think he would take them? Or what is the best spot to get each position?
With edge rusher, the rule of thumb is the earlier you take them, the better, right?
Yes.
And so you're going to want to try and grab those guys earlier in order to get a higher return, right? Yep. So that's the general rule of thumb. I think that holds true in this class as well, although this is a class where you can find a lot of unique pass rushers later in the draft as well. So if the Lions are feeling confident, they don't have to feel pressed to take one, but the general rule of thumb is you'd probably want to get that edge rusher first. After that, guard, you typically want to get on in the first 3 picks, right? You can go a little bit later. It's a harder crapshoot, right? If you get a guy on day 3, it's more of a chance of him turning into Colby Sorsdal than Christian Mahogany, right? So that's just the odds, right? And so earlier you can get a guard, the better, more likely to be plug and play and be a guy who can convert. So if you want to put a pin in guard and say that's either second or third, then the other one becomes, what's the next most valuable? And I'd go back to the defensive line. I think getting a defensive tackle, while you can get them a little bit later, the earlier you tend to get those defensive line guys, the better your value is. And so maybe I put that ahead of guard. I think you can kind of go back and forth, but maybe defensive end, defensive tackle, guard third, and then it's whatever you want. I mean, safety, I'll pick safety next just because wide receiver is just, you can find a plethora of talent at different spots. And so that is the one position where you can definitely get a stud if you go early, but you can also get an all-pro in the 4th round if you're Brad Holmes. So wide receiver would be the lowest. I would pick that 5th.
Yeah, I mean, this is almost kind of a positional value question.
Right.
Because, yeah, I think in general, you get the best value edge early. Sometimes wide receiver, too. I wouldn't say in this class in particular. I don't know how many high-end guys there really are. So if you're talking about this draft in particular, to me, that seems like more of a day 2, maybe even day 3 pick like you were suggesting. But edge, very much, yes, first day, second day, at most, if you're looking to really get a starter. Guard, like you said, typically day 2 is a really good value. You don't see a lot of guards go in the first round. If you do, it's 1 or 2, not 5 or 6 like sometimes you see with offensive tackle. Safety is an interesting one, right? Because you have the Lions are kind of the example of both, right? Brian Branch is a guy that they had a first round grade on. They ended up getting him in the 2nd, but they also found an all-pro in Kirby Joseph in the 3rd round, and I think that's kind of familiar territory. But then when you look at this year's draft, there are a couple guys that I really, really like early on, whether it's, Malachi Starks, Nick Emanuari, Jonas Sanker is a guy that I think both of us like that maybe is more of a day 2 guy, but it's just like, to me, I'm safety's just like so tricky for me because it's not a starting need, right? Theoretically, the Lions have their 2 starters of the future. The Kirby Joseph talks continue. Brian Branch doesn't seem like a guy that's going to leave anytime soon, but there's a pretty massive need for the depth behind him. There's not a single guy behind those 2 that has any wealth of experience, really any expectations to grow into a starter. And so I kind of would think about maybe leaning into the safety a little bit earlier in this draft than maybe one would expect, because I do think there needs to be more solid depth there. We know the Lions aren't shy about adding or putting on a third safety into the lineup when necessary. So, but to go back to the original question, like, what order is Brad Holmes going to take these? The order that the talent is there in. I don't think I don't think Brad Holmes has that list of 5 needs and like, all right, we're going to attack this first and this first and this first and this first. It's more like, these are our needs for the short and long term. If a guy is there that we like, sure. But it doesn't really matter when or where. We just want a guy that we like. And so I think this question is more just about, like, in this particular draft class, where is there an abundance of talent? And I would say edge early, wide receiver day 2 is pretty good. Safety early. I like the talent earlier than I do later, which is obviously true of every position. But guard day 2 or round 2 or round 3 is kind of the sweet spot. And then I like the early defensive tackle class, but I think that's also a pretty deep position. So
yeah,
I think defensive tackle is maybe one of those where you could wait until day 3.
Let me walk you through the depth in this class in particular, from what I've kind of gathered.
Sure.
For edge, you're looking at upwards of like 6 different edge rushers that could go in the first round, right? And that's just the first round. After that, you're talking about another 10 that could go on day 2. And then for defensive tackle, you're talking about 4 that could go in the first round, and then another 6. You know, and that's that 10 deep is about the end of that, where like it's you're starting to get good players, but they're more specific type role players. When you go to guard, it's very similar. You got about maybe 2 that are going to go in the first round, and then maybe another 10 that are going to go on day 2. So again, that kind of sweet spot for both defensive tackle and guard is kind of, you know, that day 2. With safety, 2 max in the first round, and a total of maybe 7, including those 2 guys that are maybe first rounders,
right,
in the top 100. And that's probably it. So it's definitely the thinnest group. And then wide receiver, it kind of falls in line with again, you got like 4 maybe that might go in the first round, and then another 10 or so that'll probably go like on day 2. So there's a lot more depth in this class at receiver and both defensive line and guard. Like those, right. It's nice to have depth at all of those spots. Safety's the one that gets really tricky because there's a lot fewer targets to go after. So while you can get wide receivers a lot deeper, and you might be able to get, you know, some of the other linemen, offensive or defensive, a little bit later, you're getting more into like specialists. So right. If you want a safety who can contribute, you may have to use a day 2 pick on him. And then if you do, you're looking at your other positions and saying, man, now which one am I going to have to lessen my, you know, the value in, or what's the return going to be? It'd be nice to have those 5 top 100 picks and get a contributor at all 5 spots, and then you'd be happy. But you're realistically probably going to get contributors at 3, and you know, you'll have to hope that Brad Holmes works some magic on the other 2 spots.
Sounds like you're in favor of trading down to get 5 top 100 picks. That's how I read that.
Oh, yeah, why not? That's fine with me.
Kind of along the same lines that one of our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, Alvin W.S., which position group do you feel has a bigger drop-off from who may be available when the Lions pick in round 1 versus round 2 versus round 3, between interior offensive line and edge? So we just talked about how both are pretty deep, but which one would you say has a bigger drop-off from day 1 to day 2?
Interior OL or edge? I would say you can get interior offense. The top five interior offensive linemen are all really interchangeable, and two or three might go on day two, so you might be okay. Whereas on so then it's a bigger drop off after that top five.
Right.
When you get to edge, the bigger drop off is after six, right? Instead of just two. So you're getting like two and then a small drop off to three. So you're talking about five good guys, then to drop off. Edge, you get six, and then there's a much bigger drop off because then you're getting into guys that are like more specialist type guys.
Right. But those top six at edge are probably all first round guys. So
100%.
yeah. So I would say maybe there is a bigger drop off there from first round guys to second and third round guys from edge, because at guard, like you said, those top six are interchangeable. And the question is, when you get to your Tate Ratledges, your Jonah Savanea, I probably blew that. Savanea, you're muted.
I got it. Savanea.
Okay, there you go. The question is whether those guys are going to be around at 60. Mm-hmm. And I think it's borderline, right? I think that's kind of like, it's hard to sit here based on, just consensus mock or consensus big boards. Mm-hmm. All those things tend to not really matter when it comes to draft day, but I do like the idea more of a Tate Ratledge, so to speak, at 60 than maybe a Nick Scourton,
Sure. Yeah, because you're getting better value
right.
in that direction, right? Because the edge rusher is going to be a little bit you're going to have better odds that the edge rusher pans out, but at the same time, the Savanea and Ratledge are both like kind of plug and play guys that
right.
you're going to get starter level. Maybe they're not on the same tier as like Booker or Zabel, but they're still going to be really, really good. And for the Lions, like that's livable because you have all pros that are working on either side of them, right?
Right.
So the edge rusher, where that edge rusher is more on the island, you're getting a guy in the first round who can develop into a starter who can give you all three downs. Whereas if you get to the Scourtons, the Landon Jacksons, like those guys, you're gonna have to build them up. They're more in the Josh Paschal type of
right.
role range. They're gonna have a really solid foundation. They're gonna be good contributors. They're never gonna be like they're not projected necessarily to like be elite. So I think if you had your way, you'd get one of those edge rushers first and get a guard second, and you potentially have two starters right off the bat, and you'd be extremely happy with that. At the same time, those guards are awfully tempting. right? Those ones at the top are awfully tempting. But with this Lions group, you can get away with having a guard that's maybe not elite, or you can get away. But the question I think for me will be, can they? What edge rushers even going to be available? Right? Will all six of those guys be gone?
Right.
Which, as scary as could easily happen. So it gets tricky. But like you said, it all comes down to Braves just can take the best guy there.
While we're on the topic real quick, because it is interesting to think about which edges are going to be there. And, in your mock draft that you did through Pride of Detroit and the community at Pride of Detroit, it kind of worked out perfectly where you got your edge and you got your guard because Ezeraku was there at 28 and you went and got Tate Ratledge at 60. And listen, I think it's rare in the Pride of Detroit community mock draft where all these picks are being made by Lions fans that a good Lions, a guy that fits the Lions is there. Right? Like, because those are the guys that all the Lions fans have been looking at. A lot of Lions fans love Tate Ratledge. A lot of Lions fans love Ezeraku. And so the fact that both of those were there speaks, at least to me, like maybe those guys are there, actually there. In the SB Nation mock, where some of the writers for each individual site, and again, these are guys that cover exclusively the team. Michael Williams was there at 28. I think that one is far less likely, and I would be way more excited about, but it's just something to think about. All these other teams that fans that know their team pretty well all opted to pass on Michael Williams until he fell to the Lions at the 28. So just kind of something to think about. But again, I'm not so confident in that last one. Ezaraku to me is a guy that could and may definitely be there and would work out, especially if one of those guards fell to 60.
If I was a betting man, I would bet that Michael Williams doesn't make it to 28. Not just because I think some other team might pick him, but I think Brad might get antsy and jump up and take him. Yeah, right. So like I really think the chances of him being to 28 are pretty slim.
I think Brad might get the phone running if he's still there at 20. To be quite honest,
the phone calls would come out at 18 for sure.
But I mean,
when he'd start talking.
There's even some buzz that he might like inch close to the top 10 right now, and so like,
you're hearing that about a lot of guys.
You are, and it also is the week of the draft where like rumors go into overdrive, and it's very hard to separate fact from fiction. But we'll see.
Sure. This week, I've heard Michael Williams will go in the top 10. I've heard Shamar Stewart's going to go in the top 10. I've heard Jalen Walker's going in the top 10, which he probably should.
Yeah.
I've
Ashton Genty top 5.
Yeah, like I've heard about 15 guys that are all
all
going
to go in
the top 10.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it works. Speaking of Ashton, Ash Soden, one of our good friends here on the PODcast asks, what's the highest you think it would be possible to go up with our last 3 picks as a package deal if Brad loves a guy in that early to mid day 3 range? So let's package the Lions 1/6 and 2/7, 196 overall, 228 and 244. How high do you think that gets them?
Boy. Jeez, I didn't do the math ahead of time. Now
I mean, if I can like kind of eyeball the math, and it obviously depends on which board you're using. If you're using I think the Spielberger one, basically middle of the 5th round. So your 6 and 2/7 get you into the middle of the 5th round. If you use the other one, which is what's its name again? Rich Hill.
Yeah.
I think I'm.
Let's use Rich's.
Okay.
Because he has smaller numbers.
Right? Okay, I'm sorry. That was the first one was the Rich Hill. That gets you to the middle of the 1st round. Because your 6 is worth 5, your 7s are worth a 3 and a 2. That gets you 10 total points, which is the middle of the 5th.
Okay, so then if you're at 28 and you want to go up, and you only have 10 points, that's going to get you like 2 spots. Go ahead.
Yes. No. The question was more package those last 3 deals. Those last 3 picks, how high do just those 3 picks get you?
Oh, my apologies. I thought he was talking about if you package those picks to move up in the 1st round.
No.
Because I'm like, they're not going to get you to up.
They're going to move you a spot or 2.
Right. That's about it.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, if you use the Spielberger chart, it's 320, 250, 240. So about, how's that quick math? 600. Let's say 800. Which could theoretically, by that chart, get you into the 3rd round. And that just kind of shows you the discrepancy in how much these charts... And what Brad Holmes kind of talked about the trade charts last week and was like, yeah, everyone has their own charts. We have our own chart. We're kind of loosey-goosey with it, where it's like, if you're just kind of in the range, that's fine. He said sometimes their teams are like, you got to get down to the decimal point. And he's like, what are you doing here? But my guess is if the Lions decide to package all their day 3 picks, aside from the 4th rounder, if they're 6 and 2/7, I don't think it would get them any further than the middle of the 5th.
Yeah, I think the chances are he would probably package a pick from next year. Mm-hmm. If he wants to move up into the 4th again and get a second 4th round pick, my guess is he would package 2 of his late round picks and a pick next year to try and move up into the 4th, and then maybe get like a 7th rounder in return in next year's draft, because he always likes to get those picks back. Right? He always likes to go in with that same amount.
That is something that I actually pulled off in my Pride of Detroit Direct mock draft. Is I packaged all 3. I had worked away where there was now like a huge gap between. I think I had given away the 5th. So there was a gap between the last 3rd and the 6th, and I'm like, I'm not going to wait all that time. So I packaged 6th, both 7s, a 2026 4th and 5th, and got a 7th in return next year, which was admittedly way too much to trade all the way to the middle of the 4th round, though. And I got, who'd I get? The Michigan edge. What's his name?
Josiah Stewart
in the middle of the 4th.
This is value.
It's good value. And so, but like I unloaded 4 picks, three this year, 2 next year, and I got 2 in return.
Jeremy is GM, making beat writers happy.
That's right. That was kind of but like the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator would not accept anything less than that. And I think it's a good reminder that while it's a fun exercise to trade all 3 of those picks all at once, it doesn't get you very far.
Yeah, Brad always seems to have a way of coming out looking good, though. So
yeah,
I'm not worried about it. I do expect him to be active, and yeah, I mean, look, I've heard the same types of rumors with trades coming up. Like, oh, there's only going to be a couple of trades. It's going to be at the end of the 1st round, and then today, that was yesterday, and then today it's, man, there's going to be trades all over the place in the 1st round.
Right. Speaking of which, and this will be your last one before we go to break, Brett Leach at Typo Factory on Twitter asks, with the rumors that so many teams are trying to trade down, does it make trading up cheaper? What would you be willing to give up to move up in the draft to get someone that you really want?
It does make it cheaper, right?
Theoretically,
that's the way the market is. Yeah, when people are looking to sell, you can buy for less.
Yeah.
And so, this is it because it's a weird draft, and there's only a certain value point where that top tier drops. I do imagine there's going to be a lot of people in the middle that may be looking to move out of those middle spots. You know, the late teens, early 20s.
Right.
Probably too early for the quarterback needy teams to try and jump up in.
Yep.
But maybe enough for the teams at the end of the rounds to jump up and get something. The established teams that have multiple picks, like Lions, Bills, right? Like I think the Bills have like 10 draft picks, right? Like
something like that, yeah.
They're not gonna get 10 players on their roster. They're gonna trade up, right? They're gonna use those to package for something. So
right.
Yeah, yes, you should be able to get a lower cost value. What would I be willing to give up to move? I'm gonna be honest, I haven't thought about it. It all really depends on the player and the spot, right?
Yeah.
If you're telling me like one of my guys is there at 10 spots earlier, then yeah, I might be all right with it. But if it's like a guy that I'm just okay with, I wouldn't want to move up more than, a handful. My guess is Brad doesn't move up more than 5 to 7
right.
max.
Yeah, I think 20 is like the good starting point of a conversation, right? I think anything else is going to cost, I don't know, at least a 2nd round pick this year or next.
Who knows? He traded from 32 to 12 to get JMO. So
right.
Everything's on the table with Brad.
It's a good point, and it's a fair point to make. But I do think, I think if you are trading into the teens, it's probably going to cost you somewhere near a 2nd round pick. And you can say all you want, like, oh, maybe the price is down. Well, the price is going to come a lot lower at a certain point. There are a lot of teams that want to trade down after a certain point, and I think that after that certain point is probably in those low teens, maybe in the early 20s, because there is a pretty strong 16, 17 guys in this draft where if there's one available, you're going to want to take it, and once that last one is available, then yeah, you're probably be eyeing a trade down. But the problem is everyone's going to want to trade down once all those guys are gone. Now, of course, one guy's trash is another treasure, right? Like not everyone is going to have the same 16, 17 guys. But I guess here's the question, because Micah Williams is very clearly my guy. I don't think he's going to make it past 15 or 16. If he's there at like 18 or 19 or 20, then yeah, I'm starting to make calls. I'm starting to think about giving up the necessary draft capital, maybe a 2026 second to go get him at 20. I would probably do that. Booker kind of seems like your guy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of narrowed it down to like about 5 or 6 guys that I think are pretty realistic, and then I think 5 or 6 guys that I think
Yeah.
might surprise people. But
Would you trade up for Booker if he was there at 20? Is that too early for Booker?
yes, yeah, that's too early. I think
Okay.
I would I think Booker, Michael, Jihad Campbell, like
Yeah.
Even Shamar Stewart and Derek Harmon. Those are the 5 guys that I would consider trading up for. But how high I would trade up for them, I don't know. Moving up 8 spots. If I gave up like a 4th rounder to move
Yeah.
up, or even
Yeah,
if,
maybe
I
that's
don't know,
the
I don't know
better
if I
way to think about it. How much would you be willing to give? Forget about how far up you get. How much would you be willing to give up to go get one of those 4 or 5 guys?
I really don't want to give up pick 102.
Yeah.
And I'd be more inclined to give up next year's third rounder
You got 2 of
because I
them.
know I'm getting a second one for Aaron Glenn, right?
Yep.
So I might be inclined to use that and like a 4th rounder to try and move up however many spots I need to.
All right. With that, let's take a break. When we come back, more of your Detroit Lions NFL draft questions. When we come back here on the final midweek mailbag before the draft. We'll be right back. All right, we are on break. Let me get to a bunch of these alerts, and then we'll answer some of our live audience questions here. Let me start with Karen Lynn Wu. 32 months says 2 days until we draft some gritty guys. It's true. They're all, if they draft a single guy that's below tier 3 on your grid index, massively disappointed. Huge failure. That's how they get the F draft. RTA.
This isn't my draft. This isn't my draft board. This is the Lions depth chart, by the way.
Yeah.
This is what somebody was asking if they could see my draft board.
It's leaked.
That's just
Lions draft board leaked.
That's just the depth chart.
RGA 29 months subscribed on Twitch. Thank you so much. Rerun $5 super chat on YouTube says, would Jalen Milroe, Alabama's quarterback, be good value if the Lions use their 2nd round pick? He reminds me of Taysom Hill, tight end quarterback special teams.
Are you going to use him like Taysom Hill? I mean, like if you're drafting him to be a gadget player and he's cool with that, there's no doubt he's dynamic. He run like the wind. He's very elusive runner, very good runner. I have no idea if he can catch the ball. I have no idea if he's willing to play in that role.
Probably not, I would guess.
Right.
Considering he's going to the draft,
Right.
I think the expectation is he's going to be a quarterback. And
yeah. So like, there's a few too many unknowns. Even though I do recognize he is a tremendous athlete and a crazy runner with the ball in his hands, but like he's too small to be a running back. He'd be more of like this gadget type player, and he'd have to be able to catch the ball. I have no idea. So I think that might be a bit rich for a bit in the 2nd round.
Right. That was going to kind of be my follow up. Like if you got Taysom Hill at 60 overall, would you consider that a good draft pick? If like you got Taysom Hill's career out of the 60th overall pick, I'd say probably not.
I don't know. Yeah.
I
mean, he's. You have to think about how, like, teams value. Like, what is his role? He's not a starter, but he's a multi-gadget player. Where do these guys typically tend to fall where you can get them for value? It's usually, I mean, you could make the argument for day 2. I don't know if I go all the way to round 2 though.
To the person that asked, Taysom Hill was undrafted. Did not get drafted. So I don't know. I know a lot of people are trying to make sense of the meeting that the Lions had with Milroe at the combine. And there are a lot of reasons they could do that. One is just due diligence. One is getting to know someone that could be a quarterback in the NFL. One could be legitimate interest. There is a point when you have to start thinking about life after Jared Goff. I think it's probably a little early for that, but listen, some of the best teams get that plan in ahead of time, right? You start developing your backup of not even just your backup, like a guy that could potentially be your starter.
Yeah, like if I was going to do that, I would probably take a guy with a good arm who can throw the ball around, has some mobility,
Right.
probably the value of like a third rounder. That's what I would target as a guy who I would. Oh wait, they already did that. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. What they already did.
What?
That's right.
Finally, an advocate for the Hendon Hooker pick speaks out. People have just been like more and more upset about that pick as of late. It's very interesting.
I don't. Okay, I that's fine.
Next question here comes from another Erik with K. Erik 8504.
Nice.
10 months subscribed to the channel, says, keep up the amazing work, guys. I feel like POD is some of the best material you can get. Hey, appreciate that, man. LJ 60 months subscribed, says Detroit's greater than Green Bay. I always knew you were
Accurate.
Rodwood, LJ.
Accurate. Do you think Rod Wood had someone write jokes for him, or do you think he just made that one up?
I mean, he said he pulled Brad Galley aside and told him that. I think he was talking about Brad. He said Brad, and it could have been Brad Holmes, but I don't think Brad Holmes was at the event. He's like, "Yeah, I said this to you, but I said this to Brad backstage, but hey, Green Bay placing third again." I think Rod can be a little bit funnier than we give him credit for. He comes off as a corporate shill mostly, and that's fine because that's literally his job. Like he is a corporate shill.
It comes off that way because that's what he is.
That is what he's supposed to do. But like, I don't know, when you get him in a little bit more of an informal setting, he loosens up a little bit. I've come around on Rod Wood ever since the Calvin saga. I'm not gonna lie, pretty mad at Rod and I blame him almost exclusively for the Calvin stuff. But he's gotten way better at his job, right?
Well, because he has Disner to do the parts he didn't know how to do, right?
Right. I think it took a year or two for him to realize, instead of doing the things that I don't know how to do, maybe I should seek help, like get people around me. It's very much a Dan Campbell thing. It's just like surround myself with people that are going to make my job easier. And I think he did.
If they were going to rename the recording room, they wouldn't name it the Rod Wood or the Rod Corporate Show Wood Recording Room. They would name it the Rod Woodshed. That's what they would name it.
It's pretty good. It was pretty good.
That's a segment on the podcast I did with Joe.
The Rod Woodshed?
Yeah, we take people out to the Rod Woodshed. We talk about the stuff Rod Wood talks about.
Oh, okay.
Which is like we do it like once a year, like from the owners' meetings.
Yeah.
The Rod Woodshed is just perfect. That's a great place. We would go to the Rod Woodshed recording room. We wouldn't have to call it recording room. You just be the Rod Woodshed. You just go there.
It's true. I don't think he would win a athletic competition against the beat writers. So
maybe.
Nah.
He's got money. He could just pay everybody off.
Gonna have to pay me a heck of a lot to take that sign off.
Not if he pays us enough to sabotage you.
Just what? You gonna Nancy Kerrigan me? What's happening?
I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea.
Wow. Hey, whatever you got to do to level the playing field.
Yeah. I can't turn back time, so I'm not going to get younger.
No one on our staff is going to Green Bay for the draft. I don't know if anyone in chat is. I still have never been to Green Bay, and I do have to make that pilgrimage at some point, but But I tell people, a lot of people ask, hey, do you ever go to the draft? The answer is no, because it's not worth our time. Really the only benefit to going to the draft is the atmosphere and maybe definitely getting an interview with the players that are on hand. But considering that number seems to shrink every single year, was there 16, 18 or so every year, and the lines are picking later and later, the chances that their pick is there smaller and smaller.
2 years ago, their guy was there that they took in the second round. So
True. But the benefit of going to the Lions facility, which is where Eric and I will be over the weekend, is one, they feed you. That's probably number one with a bullet. Two, we get to go jump on a Zoom call with the guy that the Lions draft. Probably within 10 minutes of them drafting them, which is just kind of crazy. And then we get Brad Holmes at the end of the night of each
Sometimes, recently, we've gotten a coach from
That's
the
true.
player's side of the ball as well.
Yes.
It was position coaches one year. It was coordinators the other year.
Yeah.
They come out pretty quick, and they're
And it's usually was it just day one? I feel like it was only day one, or maybe day two.
I think it depends on what. Yeah. I think it depends on.
JC's going to the draft. Good for you. From Iowa. Nice.
Trying to remember who we've seen.
I don't. My memory's not good enough.
Didn't we see Glenn and Ben the Hutchinson JMO year? Didn't we get both of them, or did we get? I seem to remember getting Scotty Montgomery for Gibbs and then Shep. I don't. Maybe I'm making this up in my head. Like they've changed it up on us a couple of times, but it seems like we always get at least one other coach while they're either buying time for the pick to get on Zoom or after the fact, just to give us something to do, some more information.
All right, let me get through the rest of the alerts, and then we got to play a game together, chat, that I'm going to make us play. Q note, they give the 5-month subscribe to the channel on Twitch. Appreciate you. Healthy Sweater, 45-month subscribe, says Draft Week. Colorado Line, 6 months, says Erik, in the copycat league, as more teams follow the Lions blueprint and for coaching, and at some point the scouting follows. So how do you prevent the grit index success rate for the Lions from tanking just from other teams also looking for this type of player?
Well, we've already seen scouts dissipate to other organizations, right? Like Sears is in Arizona. I keep forgetting what's his name that went to Washington. So we've seen these guys shift around the last couple of years, and that they're going to interject their character traits. I think we have to add Chicago and the Jets to the list because those coaches are going to ask their GMs to draft certain types of guys, which I think are going to line up. I feel a little bit more confident that the Jets are going to follow suit than the Bears. The Bears, I'm not so sure about, because they line up. Well, I mean, they line up, right? Whereas the Bears, they could just be like, I do it my way and it's worked fine. Look how great we are. And so they just want to keep doing it. But I don't know. I think that's just the nature of how things are done. You got to remember this also comes from Parcells, who has disciples like Sean Payton in Denver. So Denver should be doing this. The issue is I just don't know if any of the other regimes are as just hard-nosed about it as the Lions are. Like the Lions seemed very, very adamant about having the right type of guy to fit their system. And I mean, that's how most organizations operate, right? It's just the systems are all so different that the right guy for one system isn't going to be the right guy for another. So I can see you're itching to say something.
Well, no, I mean, the only thing I'm itching to say is obviously every team is looking for football character, right? Like it's not like
not all of them. Not honestly.
I mean, they are. They would prefer every one of their players to have that versus not have that.
Oh, there's a lot of teams that are really flexible.
Right. No question. I do think we're a little bit close to the Lions, and we probably know their tendencies a little bit more than maybe some of the other teams. So we tend to think that the Lions might overvalue this compared to other teams, but I'm sure there are a handful of teams, at least, that are almost as non-negotiable as the Lions.
Baltimore, for
sure, right? I mean, how many times every year we're like, oh my God, how did the Ravens get a guy that absolutely looks like a Baltimore Ravens guy? But
the GMs that do it well are the ones who have been in their jobs for like ages,
right?
Like the Eagles, the Ravens, like
Although the Eagles are definitely more prone to taking a risk on character, right?
Sure, not as much as the Chiefs are.
Yeah, true. So those are two good football teams, though. Those are, two Super Bowl.
Yeah,
teams.
It shows
maybe
shows
character doesn't matter.
It shows you how there's more than one way to build a team.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Jay Pook, thank you for the 30-month subscribe to the channel. And I believe we are caught up. All right. I want to play a game before anyone else gets to this and starts overreacting and freaking out. The game is called Who Can We Find That Was at Offseason Workouts Today? And subsequently, who can we get mad at because they weren't at voluntary workouts?
You know what I found interesting?
What's that?
In the Lions original tweet, the one that says, "Hey, we're welcome back."
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting. The guys that they had on it: Jared Goff, as you would expect.
Yep.
Penei Sewell, of course, right? Penei Sewell. Malcolm. I mean, everyone loves Malcolm, though, so I wouldn't get too worried about that. Pascal, expecting a big year.
Who the heck?
Craig Reynolds. Good job, Craig Reynolds.
Khalif is there.
Christian Mahogany. Christian Mahogany was one of the top guys, and I was like, "Oh, he's starting."
Do you know who this guy is? You're gonna have to pull up the stream because I'm not showing you it.
Oh, I just closed it. Hold on.
I don't know. I have no idea who that guy is.
It's on delay.
I've been at the screen for a while.
Let me see. That's Khalif. That's Craig.
Yeah. And who's the other guy? No idea who that is. Hallett? Is it Eric Hallett?
It could be. It's
Strickland?
It looks a little bit like Strickland, but I thought Strickland was bigger. Well, now you're still
I think that is
down a rabbit hole here.
Nah, I think that's Strickland.
It looks. I mean, it looks kind of like him.
I think that's Lauren Strickland. Anyways, Terrion, Panay, Bates, Nowoski, Agude, Brock Wright. I've never seen a photo in this room. Boplin, Zylstra, Geo. Wait, look in the background. We got to get all of it. look at Sorstal. Just look so proud of Coyote.
He's such a fun guy, man. Like,
he is.
He's such a fun guy.
That might be not Pecco. That looks like Broderick Martin. I'm not sure who that is. That's
Lopez.
Oh, maybe it's Lopez. I was thinking it was
Moody.
That's who I was thinking. Natani Moody.
There you go. That's Moody.
Sam and someone in the background. I'm not clearly sure. That might be Lauren Strickland again. No, that's not him. I don't know. There's Rory Lopez. There's Eric Hallett. Definitely not the first guy. Jack Fox. And I think that's
Next to him is, yep.
Tom Kennedy. Why is Lauren Strickland in every picture?
He's everywhere. Cares.
He's Roy Kent. Ezekiel Turner. Tight ends. There's Curb. I'm sorry, Tyrion. Sorry.
He does have Curb's hair, though.
That's what threw me off for a second there. Kenny, your boy. And Anthony Pittman.
Yep.
Oh, it's NS. Good to see you moving around. Tight ends are always by the quarterback, huh?
Yeah, they should be.
Tim Patrick looks 8 feet tall in this picture.
Because he's next to Vontae Maddox. He's like 5'8".
A Guakin. Dan Skipper. We already saw this picture. Ish. Grant Stewart. All the hair's not in dreads anymore. It's got the hair flowing. Jake Fromm. Had to get the Jake Fromm picture.
Quarterback 3.
Hmm?
Quarterback 3.
Quarterback 3. All right. I just wanted to do that for fun. And I want to get it out of the way, Eric.
Who are we missing?
I want to get it out of the way because I already saw a question about it. There's a couple, and I think it's mostly in jest. Eric, where's J-Mo?
Where's Kirby?
Kirby's at the Tigers game. I think he was there. Kirby is literally at the Tigers game right now.
Where's Aiden?
Oh, Aiden. Aiden's holding out.
Burn it down.
Can we just take 2 minutes to talk J-Mo nonsense again and get out of here with that?
Sure. I mean, Miko and Morgan did a whole video on it, but
they did.
Okay. Can I tell this is what I'm going to tell you. Family over for Easter, right?
Mm-hmm.
First thing out of my mother-in-law's mouth. Is J-Mo really getting traded? Is J-Mo really getting it? Ruined Easter.
Okay. Let's line up the facts here. Let's line up what we actually do know. Anything that's actually factual out there. One.
That's not the fun stuff.
Well,
We do
I
the
don't
fun
care.
stuff after.
Brad Holmes said, "Listen, we're likely going to pick up his 5th-year option." He said, "Not sure long term yet," and mentioned that it's expensive. Wide receivers are expensive, and that's a good problem to have, but it's a problem nonetheless. When talking about a Jameson Williams extension, that's kind of, I think, where the trade. I don't want to even say rumors, because rumors suggest there is a source where someone is saying this is happening. That's where the speculation has blossomed from, and understandably so, right? I think you hear those messages and you're like, wow, I thought J-Mo was a core piece, and Brad Holmes, I don't expect Brad Holmes to say a year out we're going to sign him to an extension, but him saying like, I don't know, wide receivers are expensive, shows that they're at least thinking about moving on from him in one way or another after his rookie contract is over, or at some point. Then there was just, an opinion article that sent everyone crazy for a week. Just an opinion piece, but of course, the way that some people consume media, they read an opinion piece, or someone aggregates it in a misleading way that suggests this is a rumor. This is something that has legs. This is smoke. Now, the closest thing we have to an actual rumor is from Albert Breer, who said some teams think he's available.
Right. That's not from the Lions.
That's not from the Lions, right? That is speculation from other teams. It's not other teams have heard the Lions are making calls. That's not other teams have called the Lions. It is other teams think he might be available. To me, that does not cross my threshold for rumor. It doesn't. Like, it does not suggest that the Lions have him. I mean, it suggests that some teams might think he's on the trading block, but when you hear like a true rumor, it's the Lions are fielding calls. The Lions are asking for this much, right? It's close. I'll admit, like it's as close to smoke as we've got. But that's it. Like that's it. That's all the factually that's out there. And then of course, what was it? CBS Sports ran with today.
That he unfollowed the Lions on social media.
Right. And if you click on the link to that source, it is a random person on Twitter who's like, J-Mo doesn't follow the Lions anymore, and he's got all these emotional things on Instagram. If you have followed Jameson Williams for even a second in the past 3 years he's been here, he has all sorts of these like wide receiver drama quotes that he does all the time. All the time. And the evidence this person that they quoted on Twitter is just like, I just checked and he doesn't follow the Lions. And then like finally everyone wised up today and were like, do we know that he was ever following the Lions? And the answer is no, I don't know. I've seen some people say that he definitively has never followed the Lions. I don't know if that's true. Maybe he did unfollow the Lions. But writing an entire story based on a random person's tweet who's just like, he unfollowed him. That is
AI, right?
That is terrible journalism. It sparked yet another full 24 hours of people speculating and being ridiculous. I'm not saying it won't happen. In fact, after the owners' meeting, I said one of my takeaways is they could very well trade him after this year. I think they could do it. But to me, here's the thing you have to wrap your head around. If the Lions were thinking about trading Jameson Williams, why would they tell him before they did it and before they drafted his replacement? Why would they do that? It makes no sense. It makes zero sense. Because now you are upsetting a player who you may not trade if the draft doesn't fall your way and you don't get his replacement. If Matthew Golden is your guy and you think you're going to trade up to get him, but the board doesn't fall that way, well, now you've just pissed him off and you're not gonna get the guy that you want. And so I don't know. I don't believe anything that we learned today was anything. I don't think there was anything to learn today at all. And I think people need to like step back and look at this logically and stop falling for the social media drama, stop falling for the vague social media posts and trying to read into it. It's exhausting. It's exhausting from my standpoint having to just like this is the most I'm stepping in it. I didn't tweet about it today. I didn't write anything about it today because it's dumb and it's all speculation. And again, I'm not saying it can't happen. It could. I don't see how it makes a lot of sense to do it this year, but it could. But nothing that happened today suggests it's even closer to happening than it was 7 days ago.
How many times has Brad traded a player before?
Twice.
How many times do you think he informed that player before he traded him?
0.
It
is twice, right? It's Swift and
Hawk.
Oh, that's 3. The corner. First round corner. That's not Terrion.
Yeah.
Okuda.
Did they trade?
They traded Okuda. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe it was for such a low value. I couldn't remember, but I don't know.
No, Stafford too. That good point. Stafford.
Okay, that one was before he really even started. So
good catch, Mr. JJ Pickle. I'm not sure how that one slid by us.
Yeah, it doesn't count. It was like that was like the transition. That was like we were still in purgatory at that point. right?
True.
That was still the
Yes.
transition. Yeah. Stafford knew ahead of time, so maybe there is smoke to this fire.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if honestly Jameson Williams saw some of the smoke and was pissed off about it.
Oh. Do you think
But
he read
that's-
an article?
Yeah, maybe he read an article and was just like, these MFers better not be thinking about trading me. But the idea that the Lions would approach him this early and be like, hey, we're looking to trade you on draft weekend. That's an absurd thing to do. Absolutely absurd.
He's not at workouts.
Stop it. We don't even know that he's not at workouts. We just haven't seen a picture of him. I would say if he was there, there's almost 100% chance there would be a photo of him. But guess what? There wasn't one of Amon-Ra either. Wide receiver revolt.
I didn't see any wide receivers.
Khalif is a line crosser.
And Tom Kennedy.
Khalif
only
and Tom Kennedy are union busters. Crossing the picket line. Scabs.
Oh no, Tim Patrick was there too.
Oh
no.
jeez.
The whole
fractured locker room.
Man.
That's right. Antoine Randall leaves and suddenly just chaos in the wide receiver room. Anyways, so my plea to you is just try to be better about figuring about like the difference between rumor, speculation, and just try to calm it down with the social media vague it's my least favorite part of modern media. And there's a lot that I don't like. It's just like the vague social media posts.
You're getting awfully close to jinxing this thing here. You might want to say it could still happen, but it probably won't. Just to even things out.
Just to hedge myself.
Yeah, well, look, if you bring it back just a little bit, no jinxes in play. Right now you're being so adamant. At this point,
I've never even said it's not going to happen. I'm just
if the football gods want to punish us, they're going to trade Jameson Williams in order to
trade him
trade
in
up
2 minutes.
Trade up to get James Pierce. Like we would have to retire.
Yeah, it'd be like, you know what? I knew Brad Holmes was going to do something surprising, but this was so out of left field and something that we were insisted would never happen. That we gotta fold it up. We gotta.
It was a good run.
Throw the cleats on the power lines and call it a day.
Yep.
All right, I am caught up. Oh, I'm not quite caught up on alerts. J Pook. Oh, I got to J Pook. Thank you for the 30 months again. Anyways, and then RGA 20-bit says Cam Scatabo came in for a visit. Goodbye, Monty.
Oh, we're gonna talk about Cam in a minute.
Yeah, we are going to talk about Cam a little bit. Once we get back into the midweek mailbag podcast edition, but yeah, now we're caught up on alerts, so we can answer some of your questions here, as long as they're not Jameson Williams related. I think we got to the bottom of that as much as we want to talk about it.
They're all going to be Jameson Williams questions now.
I mean, I ignored plenty of them that were sent to us on Twitter.
Really?
Yes.
That's a shock. I can't believe it.
I got a question for you. What? Huh?
JC points out Monty wasn't in any of those pictures.
He's holding out for a new contract, even though he got one in October. He saw the Scatabo visit, and he's just like, "Uh-oh."
Yep.
What's up, Brad?
He was like he's searching over to Cap for how many guarantees he's got left.
Joe, I always mess this up. Joe at Tiger, or is it? Yeah, Joe at Tiger. I got a question for you. Will the draft pick compensation trade chart change this year since This is not a top-heavy draft, but instead it's a deep draft.
The teams adjust them yearly, from what I gather, is that they adjust them according to the class, right? So they don't view it as much. Like there's some teams, like Brad said, that will be like, this pick is worth this value, this value, this value, blah, blah, blah. And I need to get the exact trade in order to accomplish what I want. Then there's other ones that are like, they'll adjust it for like the types of player that could be potentially available, or at least they'll do that at the top. So I do think it gets tweaked each year from what I can gather.
Question from Damian Smith on YouTube says, is Donovan Jackson a better scheme fit than Booker?
No, not a better scheme fit. He is a good, I mean, look, he's a good fit. There's don't get me wrong, but Booker is a terrific fit because, okay, Alabama scheme translates to the NFL at an elite level. Like the system that they run, there's a handful of teams that translate well. Georgia, Michigan, like those, Penn State in in certain aspects, mostly their defense, not their offense. Their offense,
right?
Whatever. Ohio State can do that. Their defense translates. Their offense doesn't translate as much because they go more spread than NFL teams want. So it's not always as clean. But I do think Jackson is. I do think he's capable of running both of the blocking, like the multitude of blocking schemes that the Lions run. So his athleticism is higher. Gray Zabel's is higher, so that's going to be good movement skills, right? Like you're gonna enjoy their ability to move, which seems to be the catalyst for most people with Booker. Is the lack of athleticism, right?
Right.
But spoiler, I have something for people to pay attention to on my article that I'm writing up on him that kind of will might put some perspective on it. But so there are certain aspects that the more athletic linemen are going to be able to do, which are things like pull, right?
Yep.
Like, and I do think Booker's capable. He's just not elite at it. Like, but he's elite everywhere else. And so he's stylistically a perfect fit, but you're going to treat him more like you treated Zeitler as opposed to treating him like you're treating Graham. And Mahogany he looks like he can do it all.
Right. So, well, I guess my question would be, do you think that Donovan Jackson has more versatility then? Like the ability to play both left and right guard, where Booker might just be your right guard type?
No, I think Booker can do both. Okay. I think all three of them can do both.
Yeah.
I actually think, and I think Zabel can play center and Jackson can play tackle, but Booker is a guard only. He's not going to play center. He's not going to play tackle. He's guard only, but he's going to be really, really good at that.
Gotcha.
But I don't think you need to just put him on the right side. I think you can put him on either. He played at Alabama as a left guard, but he has right guard experience. He's played there before. So it's not unfamiliar to him. And Bama cross trains their guys. Yeah. Like all the time.
True.
So like these guys come out knowing that dexterity.
Next question here, and I'm just going to tee this one up for you, Erik. So get ready to talk for the next 5 minutes. Cody on YouTube asked, did Erik give his thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers interview on McAfee and AG telling Aaron Rodgers to get out?
I tell you, the biggest takeaway I had was if you would have told me at this point last year that this fan base would have hated Ben Johnson and adored Aaron Glenn at the level that they do, I would have called you a liar to your face. But they're like a year ago, it was completely switched. Like everybody was like, "Oh, Ben is the best coordinator. Aaron Glenn, you better get your stuff together because the defense isn't good enough." Now Aaron Glenn doing everything right. And Ben is just tripping over himself over and over and over. And he's having to backtrack on things that he said. And Ben.
Well, to those that paid close attention to what we said about both guys, which was, yes, I think Ben Johnson is a better offensive coordinator than Aaron Glenn might be a defensive coordinator, but Aaron Glenn is the better leader. Aaron Glenn is could be the better head coach. I think we've already kind of started to see that play out a little bit.
It's crazy, like how much.
But I mean, obviously, that's just in terms of like the leadership aspect, the media facing aspect. That might not matter in the long run as much as getting your team in line, building game plans, all that sort of
stuff.
Right.
My adoration towards Aaron Glenn has grown just leaps and bounds. And for him to say, yes, I know we're paying you $45 million to not play here. We still want you to travel cross country on your own dime. Jeez, that's the stupidest part of the story. I swear, the my own time thing.
Right.
For Aaron Glenn to be like, oh, we're going to talk? Oh, you want to talk about what your future? Oh, hold on. Let me go get the GM so I can just fire you right now and just get it out of the way. Just a chef's kiss to be like, GM's here? All right. Yeah, we're going a different direction. You have something to say? Yeah, I don't care. You want to tell me what your thoughts are on the roster? Yeah, I know. It's all your guys. Because we saw the previous Jets GM bring in all your guys, and I'm just going to shush them on out because they're not the guys we want. Aaron Glenn, just the middle finger to him to exit. It just beauty. And just how many times, I don't know where Aaron Glenn's or where Rodgers is going to end up, but wherever it is, I guarantee Aaron Glenn will have a part in ending his career with that team as well, because that's all Aaron Glenn does. Aaron Glenn just ends Aaron Rodgers' careers.
That's disrespect to Kirby Joseph.
Well, okay, Aaron Glenn is like, hey, Kirby, go get this done. But like, if he ends up in Pittsburgh, which is, geez, I'll lose a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin if that happens. But if he ends up in Pittsburgh, does Pittsburgh play the Jets? Because if they do, okay. If Steelers, I want to know
Steelers 2025 opponents.
Do they play the Jets? And if they do, the schedule makers have to make it week 18.
They will face the New York Jets on the road.
It doesn't matter.
In New York.
Great. Perfect.
No, in New York, yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
He can stop by the facility for another 15 minutes before the game.
I am begging, if he goes to the Pittsburgh, that they make that a week 18 game. Begging. Because he will... It would be storybook.
By the way, the Steelers also play the Lions in Detroit.
Yeah, it's great.
That's great. Kirby Joseph can end his career again.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. I hope he's so bad at this point in his career, and he's such a problem for the teams that he joins. I don't care. Let him go to a Lions opponent. Awesome. That's a W. It just is. You're going to win that game because he's washed. He's a terrible person, quarterback, guru, podcast guest, all the above. Terrible.
Let me ask you this. We talked a little bit about the POD cast during a break. Some people are interpreting Aaron Rodgers' story as this is how it happened, because it's the order in which he told it. He goes, quote, now he's quoting Aaron Glenn, asking him, quote, so do you want to play football? Rodgers responds, yeah, I'm interested. And then Aaron Glenn goes, we're going in a different direction at quarterback. Do you interpret that as Aaron Glenn decided in that moment based on his answer of, yeah, I'm interested?
No.
Okay.
No,
Because some
he
people are
knew
like,
it.
if he would have, like, if he would have been like, yeah, of course I want to play. I want to finish my career with the Jets. Like, if he would have given that answer, of course he wouldn't have because he's a D-bag.
I think Glenn was trying to save him the embarrassment of having to cut him. And he was like, hey, are you sure you want to play and you don't want to retire? Because you have a lot of money and you could be good. Oh,
Yeah.
no, you want to play? All right, guess what? You're just not going to be here.
Yeah.
We will take a $45 million bath to not have you on this team.
I think you're right.
That's so telling, like, to me. Like, how is Pittsburgh looking at it going, yeah, but maybe. It didn't work last time.
Okay, they're doing the Tobias UK meme. Yep. It didn't. Nah, it almost never works.
But it could this time.
But maybe. No, I'm with you. I think that decision was made before he was in the room. Because
yeah,
my whole take on it, and maybe this is just repeating myself from Friday, is I think both sides probably went into that meeting thinking that it was going to be longer, thinking that there was going to be a little bit of harmony, and probably doing some of the things that Aaron Rodgers thought they should have done, which is vet him for, hey, who's good in this locker room, who's a guy I can trust, who's a guy like. I think Glenn would have been open to doing that, but within 5 minutes they were already at each other's throats because they're water and oil. Like, those guys were never going to get along because Aaron Glenn is blunt and Aaron Rodgers is not used to people talking to him like that.
Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?
Right. Right. That's in the first 10 minutes. It's like, okay, yeah. I think at that point they're like, okay, we don't need to talk to each other anymore. I don't even care about your opinion about the team anymore. See you later, buddy.
That's usually what people say before they try and fight. Like,
right. Or get out of a police ticket.
I love Garen Glenn. I hope him nothing but the best.
It is wild to me that some people are taking Rodgers' side. Like, has he not proven himself to be an a-hole?
Who are these people? Because the Packers fans don't like him anymore. The Jets fans don't like him anymore.
It's one group of people. It's the same people that pointed to anything the Lions did prior, 4 years ago and further back and just went, Lions, same old Lions. It's the same thing with the Jets now. It's look at the Jets being dysfunctional, pissing off one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Some morons.
I mean, your words.
Wait, look, I'm just glad there's none of those in our listening audience.
That's right. Way to win them over, bud.
No, I don't see anybody in the comment section talking about how great Aaron Rodgers is.
What are the Cousins rumors? Certainly not in Detroit, I would imagine. All right, let me get to some more non-Aaron Rodgers questions. I hope that scratched your Erik ranting on Aaron Rodgers itch.
I'm very curious. Okay, I'm gonna put a pin in this for a second because I haven't talked to you about this. The quarterback show on Netflix, right? Because as Goff, I'm gonna automatically watch it. The first season with Mahomes and Cousins and I didn't even care about that. I didn't watch the first season.
Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, I didn't watch the first season of that. But I watched the whole wide receiver one because I'm on Ron. I planned on watching the quarterback one because of Goff. But I'm very interested to see how they deal with the Cousins benching, right? Like, I'm really curious. And then how do they spit? Because that's an awkward.
Sure.
That's an awkward situation that they're going to have to deal with. And so I'm a little bit more fascinated by this installment of quarterbacks, not just because of Goff, but because of the politics of the NFL. Dan Pass, go finish it right now, Dan Pass. Just fast forward to Amon-Ra.
But also, if you, I think what Dan, I thought what Dan was intimating was that he stopped after the very last episode, which would make sense. Stop before the NFC Championship game episode.
Oh, I know. My wife stopped watching it that one. She was like, "Well, I'm done," which I
get.
I
That was the first time
I Clockwork Oranged my way through it.
Yeah, I think that was the first time I had rewatched that game in any manner, and so it hit harder than I expected. I'm like, I'm over it. I was kind of over it once I was over the travel shenanigans that happened afterwards.
Oh, in Chicago? Stupid Chicago.
Stupid Chicago and stupid SFO for stealing my keys. But yeah, I feel like it might be the same with the Commanders game. I don't feel like I've really revisited that game much.
I have told you how my daughter defaults to NFL Network, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the office working, and I walk out to go and check, and I need to go, I don't know, throw a bottle in the recycling bin or something like that. And that game was on, and the gut punch of being unprepared to see it was shocking. Like, I was literally like, oh God, oh man, why is this game on? I was like, I was not prepared. And so I am still not prepared to watch that game.
Yeah.
I've only seen clips of it, but
it's tough.
No, I'm not ready. I gotta get used to it though, because you're gonna be in the playoffs forever now. So we gotta get used to it.
Sometimes the bigger they are, the harder they fall. That thing. Thanks, Ronan. Appreciate it, buddy. Want Shamar Stewart, Jihad Campbell, James Pierce Jr., any of those three at 28 is my hope. Can we talk a little about James Pierce? Because I feel like we haven't talked much about him, and I think there's a general feeling that he's a bad fit. Now, some of that is just like kind of the rumor stuff. You know, who's the guy, the Green Bay guy who always posts like a bunch of anonymous scouts every year? He had something. Bob McGinn?
Oh, yeah. He's not Green Bay, is he?
I think he used to be.
Okay.
But anyways.
I remember him from Houston, and he's covering some Bills stuff now. But, McGinn has an anonymous scout, and then Feldman has an anonymous scouts one that he does as well.
Yeah, 38-year covering the Green Bay Packers. How dare you?
Okay, well, I just remember him from Houston.
You're making that up. He never heard. You're thinking of someone else.
He didn't cover Houston?
No.
What? Who am I thinking about then?
I think you're thinking of...
I'm thinking of the guy who does the special teams once.
Maybe.
The special teams ranking.
I'm thinking about... He has a name
that Dave Phipp loves.
I was thinking of the guy who has a name very much like the main character in Die Hard. I can't even think of his name right now. Who's the Die Hard guy? I know it's Bruce
Willis.
What's his character's name?
John McClane.
Yeah.
No, I'm not thinking of McClane. Bob McClane.
No,
okay. Yeah, I know. No, yeah, he covers Houston. No, I'm thinking of the guy who does the special teams.
Okay. Rankings.
Yeah, Phipp loves him.
Right.
I can't remember his name though.
Goslin.
All right, there you go. Thank you.
Anyways, what were we talking about?
We were talking about James Pierce. All right,
James Pierce.
So,
that's right.
Here's the thing. He's very fast and he's very athletic and he can very much rush the passer. And if you're asking him to just rush the passer, terrific. He's improving with his run defense, but he's also a liability and he can't set the edge. He doesn't have the strength or the mentality to set the edge. He gets off his spot. He gets upfield way too fast. He doesn't have the discipline. There's character rumors. They stem from McGinn, but they are also been out there for a while. They've been around for months and months now. So there's potentially questionable character traits. There's a inability to set the edge, or maybe I don't know if it's unwillingness or just what he was asked to do, but he never set the edge, and it doesn't look like he has the frame to it. But he has really good traits. Like, I don't want to bag on the guy and be like, he's terrible, because he's not. There's a reason people are talking about him as a first rounder.
Right.
But the traits that he's lacking are values that the Lions hold high. And that's why I say he's not a fit. And the only reason I brought him up a couple, like whatever it was, a few weeks ago, is because people always ask, like, who's not a fit, right? And so I brought him up. I'm like, if any of the rumors are true, even one of those rumors is true, then that's going to put some character into question. The fact that, okay, he scored very low on the grit list, but I want to reiterate this. The grit list is not about applying negative attributes. It's only about applying positive, which means he scored low, not because of any of the negative stuff. He scored low because they weren't talking about his positive character traits in a way that are in the terms that we identify as grit worthy. There's a lot of terms that are grit worthy, and he got none of them. Like, I think he got one. There was like one person that was like, hey, he's good at this.
Yeah.
So it's a lack of people saying that he has these characteristics, these qualities that fit in, again, with some of the core principle beliefs of the Lions. So he's lacking those core principles. Maybe there's character stuff, maybe not. He doesn't set the edge, but he's a really good pass rusher. I don't see them overlooking all of those things that they hold true just because he's a really good pass rusher. Will they? I don't know. If they think he can be elite and they think he can get like 15 sacks, 18 sacks a season, and they're like, yep, he's going to be the missing piece. Right. We're just going to pin him up over the edge. We're going to put Levi down and just rush him off the edge of Levi, and he's going to get 15 sacks for us. And that's worth it? I don't know. I mean, maybe. I just don't see it. I just don't. There's too many flags.
It's interesting because, I mean, some of his tape is ridiculous. He's just like an absolute game changer.
It's why he's talked about in the first round. Right.
And sometimes, and I get the sense from some Lions fans, and I feel it a little bit too. Sometimes you're just like, screw the fit, go get a game changer, right? A good coaching staff will just find a really good player who does something really good and really valuable. Rushing the passer is incredibly valuable, and find a way to use him. It doesn't have to be a perfect fit.
So my question would be, would you draft, if you could get James Houston's rookie season on repeat, would you draft that in the first round? Just pure pass rusher, but he's going to get you 15 sacks. Because that's what he is in the Lions scheme.
Right.
He may be something completely different in another scheme. We just talked about that earlier, right? Yeah. But would you give up a first rounder for James Houston rookie season?
It's a tough question to answer because obviously they weren't as happy about it as everyone else seemed to be.
Oh yeah, no. I think there was more that going on there though behind the scenes. From what I can kind of,
he is not with anybody, right? I believe he's a free agent now.
Not to my recollection.
Which is not a great sign.
Right.
Let me check real quick. Oh, so that's for the Browns?
He was. Isn't that who picked him up? Or claimed him?
They claim him from waivers.
Did he get a futures deal?
Don't know. We get a raid? Oh, we got a raid from Chris. What's up, Chris? Didn't mean to step on Tiki Tuesday this week, obviously, but we had to get this in before Wednesday, I think, because we want to give people time to listen to this. But I hope you had fun over there. Everyone who's hanging out for Tiki Tuesday, thanks. First of all, thanks for hanging out over there. I know Chris appreciates all the extra support from over there. Oh, you guys are drunk. Okay. I mean, it is Tiki Tuesday. That makes sense. But yeah, there are times in which I wish the Lions went out of their comfort zone for a guy. guy that maybe wasn't a perfect character fit, a guy that maybe wasn't a perfect, like, he has to set the edge and rush the passer. But I will say, to me, there's just too many questions with him in particular for me to be comfortable going with him at 28.
If it was like, hey, we're willing to look past the character because we don't think it's a big deal, there's a scheme element that is an obstacle as well. That's really why I'm so I don't like talking bad about prospects, right? I just don't see the fit with him with the Lions. And
that's fair. I wanted to get that one out of the way because I think most people are on your side there, but honestly, I do think there's a fair conversation to have because he's so ridiculously good as a pass rusher.
Did you see Jeff wrote an article? Actually, I think someone wrote it for him over at Lions Wire. That said, Lions fans are selecting James Pierce at number 28 in simulations more than any other player.
Okay, I did see that headline. I didn't read it because
I think that was using Pro Football Network's simulator. People who use Pro Football Network's simulator are drafting James Pierce.
Right. That's
at a higher level, right?
That was going to be my question. Is there a way to make it so that you're sure that it's Lions fans doing that? Like, is that based on people like I'm doing a 7-round mock draft with the Lions? Is that where that data is coming from? Or is it anyone who's doing any mock draft, maybe even an all 32 mock draft, if those guys are also slotting James Pierce to the Lions?
Yeah, how many people are? My guess would be that it's people who are like picking the Lions and then picking a 7-round back. Yeah. That would be my guess. But maybe I'm not, and maybe I'm in the minority. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I do think, and I'm not. I think there's some dot connecting that happens without like a deeper thought about fit, where it's just like the Lions need someone opposite Aiden Hutchinson, James Pierce Jr. Like that's the dot connecting. There isn't like, hey, usually on the opposite side they want an edge setter, they want a big guy. Davenport is the guy. Is this guy like Marcus Davenport? No, then maybe he's not the guy that they want.
So Tom Cruise's dad brings up that Mina Kimes has connected Pierce to the Lions, and this is what I want you to do. If you are a Mina Kimes fan and you're a Daniel Jeremiah fan, they get together and they do a mock draft together. And in the simulation, Mina gives Daniel Jeremiah 2 choices. Daniel has to pick one of them. Or I'm sorry, I think she did it with Dane as well. She did it with Dane. This one was with, I think, Jeremiah. So the question was, would they pick to Jeremiah? If the Lions were given the choice between James Pierce and I don't even remember who it was, and she was like, "What do you think?" He didn't even hesitate. This is the most recent one that she did. He was like, "Yeah, no." He didn't even think about James Pierce. Like it was just, yep, the other guy. I think it was Zabel. That's who it ended up being. Like when you hear guys like Jeremiah, not even like blink at it, like guys that are more in the know, it tends to that's why when Dane connects the Lions to a corner, that like causes me to pause hard.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like, I love Mina. I think she's great. She's been on the podcast, I don't know, 4 times now. It feels like 3-4 times.
Yeah.
But I think she's missing this. She's missing the connection. There's people who are in Allen Park all the time that miss the connection. Like that. I just think they're doing exactly what you were saying, which is Lions need a pass rusher. He's the best pass rusher there, and he's a pure pass rusher, and he's really good at it. Let's just connect. Just pair them together. And the Lions they don't operate like that.
Yeah, not typically. But again, like I do think it's a fair conversation to have whether the Lions should be a little bit more flexible. It's just they haven't. We did have another alert. Sorry, I need to go through. Oh, there we go. Hello? My
drafting
computer froze.
drafting 2 pass rushers is not out of the question. I would think they would be different types of edge rushers, though. Like you would see, I very much think they will grab like a down defensive end and like a stand up pass rusher as well. I wouldn't be
Sure.
surprised to see both those guys.
Is that where you kind of maybe see? Why you keep forgetting his name? The Michigan guy,
Josiah Stewart.
Josiah Stewart, is maybe the stand-up guy. As the
100%.
second edge that you had.
He again, he would play the James Houston role, but he has a little bit more Sam in him than Houston did.
Right. Not a ton of experience, but a little bit.
But you're also getting him in the third round or fourth if you do some wacky trade, apparently. And you can get him in the third. But taking a guy in the third that's going to have a pass rushing role is totally different than getting him in the first.
Two alerts to get to. One is 80 Jerome for the 6 months subscribed here on Twitch using that Twitch Prime subscription, which is always a good reminder that if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can create a free Twitch account if you don't already have one already, and support us by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account and subscribing to us for free, because Amazon Prime gets you one subscription every single month on Twitch. Whichever stream you want, make it here, make it somewhere else. Just do it every month because it's free money that you can give a content creator that you enjoy. Or maybe just a random one that you don't even watch. Just throw them $5 a month. And then Keith Schmidt over on YouTube, a $5 super chat, says, Jeremy, any chance the Lions draft your guy, Colin Lovefart from the Michigan tight end? Colin Lovefart. No. I think it's I'm not going to say 0% chance, but we talked about it a couple weeks ago, I think, when we were doing the skill position POD cast. And listen, if he's there, I think they'd consider it. I don't think he's going to be there. But I do think this team adheres to best player available even more so than people think. And so if they're like, hey, this is the last guy in that top tier and everyone else isn't close, I think they'd consider it and be like, all right, well, let's just figure out what we want to do with their tight end. I think we talked about like maybe they just play more 2 tight end sets, and maybe they go a little, Bill Belichick double tight end thoughts. This is an opportunity to like shift your offensive strategy a little bit with a new offensive coordinator. If you get a second tight end that you really like, that can be the move tight end, that can play both in line and out, figure out a way to make that work. You don't have to actually answer that. Well, I did anyways, Keith.
I think they can make it work, just as long as they both stay out of trouble. Right? Can't have one of them getting in trouble.
Why would one of them get in trouble? What do you know?
I don't know. That's what happened last time.
Oh. You're talking about New England now.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by, Steve. Yeah, and listen, like we keep saying it, but this team is going to have to get younger and cheaper at positions, and they did it once at tight end before already. They could theoretically do it again. I don't think they will, but they could. All right, you want to get back into the show?
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at the last Twitch comment. It says, if Kuiper says it should happen, then we need to make sure that it doesn't. I don't know what that's in reference to, but I completely agree.
YouTube's popping off right now. What's up, YouTube?
Yeah.
I've got like 10 comments in a row from YouTube before Twitch. How many people? I never check how many people are watching anymore. I'm just kind of curious now. How many people are over there on YouTube? It's just a general statement.
Oh, that's an accurate statement.
Okay, we got almost 200 on YouTube. Twitch, you're going to have to step it up.
Yeah.
We only got 78 of you on Twitch. Come on now. How about people just double screen it? One on Twitch, one on YouTube.
All right. Deal.
Deal. Thanks, Goof. Were you about to say something?
I saw another. How many tight ends will we carry? They carry 3 to 4 on the active roster, anywhere from 5 to 8 for training camp. So they're probably going to add one more guy because they're at 4 right now.
Yeah,
maybe might be UDFA, might be a late draft pick, but it would be tough to carry more than 4 with all the stuff they have going on and around the rest of the roster.
True. Sorry, I laughed again because we got a new follow on Twitch.
Oh, the numbers have increased.
Have they? That's funny.
Yeah, by 10 ever since you scolded them. I think people logged off of one and onto the other.
I'm assuming this is Goof. Someone named Enormous Pianist just followed us on Twitch.
Nice.
I try to acknowledge all y'all. Here's the one thing that I notice happens with YouTube often is that YouTube just has a conversation going on their own. And it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, which is fine. Like, we'll take the interaction. And it's just like sometimes that like someone that's actually like engaging in what we're talking about gets buried in beneath, 2 people discussing something else. Which again, like, it's fine. You guys are discussing. It's a community. If you guys want to discuss that, that's fine. It just makes it sometimes more difficult for us to interact with. If they have 4, why draft another tight end? To improve the room.
Because maybe that one will be better than the guys that they have. Right now, they have one tight end drafted that was drafted in the second round. The other 3 were all undrafted free agents, and so, like, Brock Wright has established himself as an NFL player. I think that they look at the other guys as guys that could be usurped, right? Like,
you're raising the floor while also maybe raising the ceiling.
If you draft, there's a couple blocking tight ends in this class that could walk in, be tight end 3 on day 1, and potentially even challenge Brock Wright for tight end 2, and then could be,
I mean, that's what this draft is about, right? Like, they got players at every position, and they even have depth at a lot of positions. But when you're at this level, you're drafting to replace guys, right? It's not just adding guys where you have vacancies. It's improving upon the ones that you already have, both in the short and long term. Your boy Maroc, thank you for the 35-month subscribed on Twitch. And Tyler Warren in the first round. That's exactly what we're saying. We're saying mortgage, just send all your draft picks this year to just get Tyler Warren.
Ricky Williams, that thing.
Would you do that for any player in this draft class?
No.
Not a single? Not a single one.
Abdul Carter, maybe? I don't know. Probably not, though. I mean, he's not great at setting the edge either, but he gives you a dynamic element that it goes beyond just being a pure pass rusher, because he's a movable chess piece, because you can line him up different spots, and like he can drop, there's a lot of stuff he can do just beyond pass rush.
Yeah. I'm very intrigued what's going to happen with Travis Hunter's entire NFL career. It's just like so many draft experts are just like, I've never seen anything like this guy. He's such a...
There are some wild things that I've heard said this year. Like, somebody was like, Jalen Milroe is the best running quarterback ever. And I'm like, according to the scouts that I talked to, and I'm thinking, are the scouts like, did they not start scouting until after like 2015? Like, do they not remember who Michael Vick was?
Right.
like, jeez, oh, Pete. You remember Mike was nuts. Like,
yeah. What do you make of that quote about Michael Williams that was in, I think it was Bruce Feldman's thing, where he talked to a defensive line coach who's like, I talked to people at Georgia and they're like, he's going to be better than Trayvon Walker.
He looks like Trayvon. He
Yeah.
plays like Trayvon. He should have a Trayvon Walker like career. If he does, awesome. But that's also if you think he is, that's probably why he's not going out of the top 10. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Don't say that.
If he's going
Just
to
lie to me for 48 hours,
if
please.
I'm saying if teams think that he can have that, then they'll take that early.
The full quote,
teams do.
the full quote, in case you haven't seen it, and it's from an anonymous defensive line coach in the NFL via Bruce Feldman from The Athletic. He says, this defensive line coach says, quote, "I think he will have a better career than Jalen Walker or Abdul Carter. He's physical as F. He played hurt this year.
Yeah.
He didn't care. Pullers come at him. He intends on effing them up. Guys that I know at Georgia told me he's going to be better than Trayvon Walker. I think Walker is a baller. Overall, I think he's better than all of them."
I'm the source on that, by the way.
Oh, are you? I didn't know you had Georgia roots.
What was the thing we talked about before I went off on the Milrow thing? The someone said, I mean, like, there's just been some outlandish
Travis Hunter
statements. Yeah, like Hunter, it's like, hey, there were guys before you that, you know, they didn't do it at the volume that you did it at, that Travis Hunter did it at. But like, so good job with his endurance. But like, you remember Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson, like those? I mean, they didn't do it. Like, again, take away the volume, which is a feather in Travis Hunter's hat. But like, those guys were like just lethal.
Yeah.
Every time Charles Woodson showed up on offense, they knew the ball was going to him, and it did not matter. Like, he was so good on defense that they didn't want to risk it. It was worth it playing him there.
Yeah.
It's a different game now too than when Champ did it. Champ was a freak. Like, both him and his brother, right? Boss was a freak too.
Good old Boss Bailey.
Athletic
We get it.
marvels.
We get it. You're old. You remember old players.
Dude, they're both Georgia boys. It's my Georgia roots.
It's your Georgia roots. Your Georgia roots so much that you named a child after the state.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
All right, let's get back into the show. For our live audience, we'll answer some more of your questions when we get to the end of this next segment. But this will be our final podcast segment before the 2025 NFL Draft.
Yeah, I feel a lot of pressure right now that I wasn't expecting.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the midweek mailbag. Closing up the mailbag before the 2025 NFL Draft. Before we get into it, a quick reminder and kind of overlook of what's to come next. There's going to be a lot of content coming, obviously, on the website during draft weekend. We'll have a live stream going during the draft over on twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit and youtube.com/@Pride of Detroit. In terms of podcasting, we might have nightly shows after the draft. We'll probably have our main PODcast recording live on Sunday. But we are also going to have nightly videos on Pride of Detroit Direct from myself and Erik, probably from the Reisman recording room if we can kind of muscle our way in there. I'm sure it'll be a popular room that night. And there will next week's midweek mailbag will also be a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber exclusive. So if you want those nightly videos after each draft, if you want next week's midweek mailbag episode, go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe for access there. But let's finish up this week's episode and talk about more draft preview stuff. Next question comes here from Polish, asks, with the top 30 visits of Golden and Scatabo, is there a player in this draft you would take to play over an entrenched starter?
Well, on defense, yeah, I think there's candidates in this class that could take over someone who is in a starting role right now. That's one of the reasons why defensive end is so popular.
Right.
Um, Also, on the defensive line with the injury to Aleem, we don't really know who's going to be that starter and what the plans are. So that creates another potential opening. Beyond that, it's a little bit harder to find a defensive starter that could get Wally pipped here.
Right.
So on offense, you could put the argument in at guard that there's guards in this class that are better, and that's why I think people have really been speculating as guard being a potential pick, and even wide receiver. I
Yep.
think there's wide receivers that could probably earn a starting role if you were, you know, enamored enough with them to take them early enough to compete. And so that's what I mean, and that lines up with most of what people project as the Lions' needs, right? Like those are the spots where the
Yep.
starters could be potentially vulnerable or will be vulnerable a year from now.
Yeah. I mean, the tricky part here is that the Lions roster is so good and you're picking so late in the first round that there aren't a lot of options. There aren't a lot of starting jobs open or
Right.
talent that could maybe usurp the guys that are there right now. The only ones are the ones that we've been circling all for the past 3 months, which is, the needs that they have.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe the tougher question, though, is like, let's say one of these guys falls. Could a Jihad Campbell win a starting job this year?
I don't.
I don't know.
I don't think he would. I think he would Jack Campbell the situation.
Right,
Right.
where you'd be a rotational guy and you'd probably take
Right.
over next year when you presumably would then move on from Alex Anzalone or something like that. Would Will Johnson or Jody Barron start at a corner position this year?
I think you could maybe say nickel is debatable, but even then, you're talking about trying to jump over a Meek, and that's going to be super hard.
Right. Um, you know, Omari and Hampton, if the Lions went that direction and exploded my brain on draft night, would he start over the top two?
No, no, I really don't
Right.
think so. I think Gianti could you could argue that, but
Right. But he's not going to be there.
right.
And then, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at all these other positions. Like we were just kind of joking about it during the break, but like Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, those guys would get playing time, but would they technically be a starter over Sam Laporta? Probably not in year one. And so, like, I mean, it is tough sledding with this. It's a good reminder of just how good this roster is because for the past 3 years and then the past 40 years before that, it was the Lions can get a starter in round one, they can get a starter in round two, they can get a starter in round three with where the roster is at. Those days are
Sure.
over, man. Like
Yeah.
you're going to be lucky if the guy you grab at 28 is a starter on day one, no matter what position. Like edge too. I would throw edge into that conversation. I'd probably throw defensive tackle into that conversation. Guard is probably the most likely starting spot that I think you could grab at 28.
Every whoever you pick is going to face competition because this
Yeah.
roster is ready to go right now if they needed to.
Yep. Speaking of top 30 visits, Cool Down Rat asks, are top 30 visits just a smokescreen? In the last 3 years, I made it so the Lions only drafted 6 players out of 23 draft picks who'd had such visits, top 30 visits. They obviously
Okay.
didn't have top 30 visits in 2021 because of COVID. Go ahead.
All right. Before you get into his numbers,
Yeah.
I have a different list than what he has projected there. So I'll tell you my list because I have more visits than what he has listed, and I will say that in the first couple of years, like in 2021, there was COVID, so there were no visits. So we didn't get combine visits, we didn't get top 30 visits. So in the first couple of years, they really leaned on combine visits. Aiden, Jameson, Josh Pascal, Kirby, James Mitchell all had combine visits. Only Aiden and Kirby Joseph had top 30 visits, right?
Yep.
And those are two that are talking about getting extensions, so
Sure.
that might tell you something. Um, the following year, Gibbs, Campbell, Laporta, Branch, Hooker all had combine visits, top 30 visits from Branch and Hooker. Okay, so again, you're getting a couple of top 30 visits. This past year, it flipped. The combine visits we only know for sure was Vaki.
Right.
But we know that Terrion, Ennis, Manu, and Vaki all took top 30 visits. So there seems like there was a shift in how they what they valued and when. And last year they really seemed to value their top 30 visits, and the years prior it seemed to be combine visits. So how much do you weigh into that? I don't know. It's hard to really parse through it, right? And maybe they've found a niche in their top 30s that they've relied on, or maybe just the way the board fell,
Right.
this is what we know.
That seems more likely, right? I mean, you're talking about
Yeah.
a 1 year trend, right? Where it's like,
Right.
oh, suddenly a bunch of these top 30 guys are the guys that they drafted.
And in all honesty, we don't even know for certain about the combine visits because the Lions didn't release their draft video this year. So we don't even know for certain unless we literally were going to walk up to Terry out Ennis and be like, hey, did you have a combine? You know, we'd have to physically ask them. So, and to my knowledge, no one has done that. So we know the top 30 visits because those get reported to the NFL and then they get leaked, right? So we do know those are certain. The combine ones, we don't. So is it a smokescreen? I don't think it's a smokescreen. And I'm going to tell you why. Brad Holmes doesn't waste time.
Yeah.
There's no reason to, right? So as weird as it is to bring in a guy like Scatabo, and it seems to make no sense. If Scatabo falls to day 3, which there are whispers of that happening, because in a deep running backs class, the top 5 might go in the top 50 or the top 60, whatever.
Right.
And then everyone just waits because they're like, oh, I can just wait because there's always going to be a guy later that I like because these next tier running backs are all kind of the same. And so the rumors are that people are going to wait till day 3 to get their guy. So now if Scatabo falls into round 4 and you think he's a day 1 dynamic special teamer, maybe he is in consideration. Exactly.
Right.
So if you think he's one of the better special teamers in the draft, of course you're going to bring him in for a top 30 visit. It's the exact same thing they did with Vaki last year. They said he's the best special teamer in this draft. Let's bring him in. And then they traded up to draft him in the 4th round because they saw the value of that player, that player's special teams value in that round. So if Scatabo falls to the 4th, yes, they could absolutely take him. But bringing him in for a top 30 is just due diligence, right? It's not necessarily a window. It's not. I know everyone wants to say he's going to replace Montgomery. I don't think that's the case.
No.
I
mean, maybe long term, like when Montgomery's 3 years is over, and then you pass the torch to him. But
sure,
yeah, he would not step in and be RB2.
Right. I think Brad Holmes is laying out contingency plans with these visits. Sure. And he's crossing his T's and dotting his I's, and he's making sure that everything that they know and the what if scenarios are all prepared for.
Yeah, I mean, and Brad Holmes was even talked about these top 30 visits and the value that they placed on him last week when he was asked, because his predecessor, the Los Angeles Rams, don't do top 30 visits, and they kind of do a little workaround where they don't have to report them to the NFL, right? They go and visit the players themselves within the college campus, things like that. But it's not everybody, right? It's a couple of college scouts. They don't get to bring them in and put them through the ringer and have them get introduced to the facility. And those are the things that Brad Holmes really values, right? He values seeing them in person, shaking their hand, getting his own personal perspective in addition to the ones of the scouts that are tracking this guy all year. And I think he values that much more than the shroud of secrecy. I think he values his own process enough where if this team knows that they like that guy, he doesn't care because he values another guy right behind him or whatever that. I think he has so much confidence in his process that giving up a little bit of their intentions or the guys that they like, they don't care. Go ahead. Track everything you know about us. We're still going to kill the draft. He has that level of confidence. Is that overconfidence? Maybe a little bit, but it's worked.
The head
it's
coach.
worked. right?
Right. It
Right.
mirrors what Dan Campbell does.
Right.
We're going to
They're
run it on fourth
transparent.
down. We're still going to do it. You know?
It's the whole organization is like,
Yeah.
we'll be transparent, try to stop us.
It's very interesting to look at Brad because in his evolution as a GM, because that first draft he really tried to emulate what he was doing in with the Rams.
Right.
Certain things were brought over, and since then he has really
Departed, yeah.
altered his
Yeah.
approach, and he has really taken ownership, and he's skewed thing, or he's like, he's skewed
Made
his
his own.
approach to a point that it is 100% his own.
Yeah.
And I feel like there were some some Saints influences that came into that first year as well because of Dan. But man, once they established that first draft, it was like they became their own entities, and they don't really. It's not about like being a branch on the Les Snead tree.
Right.
He's an acorn that fell and has sprouted his own tree, and these got guys branching off the other organizations from him.
Right. And I think part of that is likely due it's crediting other people in the building and crediting Brad Holmes for being that no ego guy where he can listen to other guys and if someone's telling him, hey, don't trade up for this guy, just wait, just be patient.
Yeah.
Dorsey being in the room, like
Yeah.
it's having those people in the room, but also valuing their opinion enough where it's not just like, hey, I'm the boss, we're gonna do things my way. It's collaborating to make something new and different and not just one specific guy's vision. And that's why I think we've seen so much break off from the Les Snead tree. It's because I think Brad Holmes is the kind of person that does value the opinions of the people and trust the people around him. All right. That went in a very big tangent, but but I like it.
Definitely on topic.
Right.
Right.
Sure. We're always on topic. Motown Mufasa asks, who is the guy this year that probably won't be within reach, but it's not totally insane to imagine he might be?
Michael Williams. Like he's the guy.
He's not going to be there. I think it's insane to imagine it at this point.
Well, he's the guy who could look, there are a lot of teams that get caught up on production.
Sure.
And there's a lot of teams that will look at what he did and be like, he doesn't have the stats to do. Because there's a lot of old school owners
Yes.
that look at it that way. And then other teams, look, it only takes a handful of teams to like not like him because of his stats, and then other teams to be in the market for other positions and just tick, 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 tick. And all of a sudden, if he's there at 20, I think Brad's on the phone, right? Like we talked about in the first segment.
The problem with him, though, is one, he plays a premier position.
Sure.
Two, he has great athletic traits. And that's it. Like, it's the same reason why I don't think Shamar Stewart makes it in the back half of the first round. Is people will gamble on traits and an elite position. And that's enough for me to think that both those guys probably don't make it out of the top 15. I want to ask you this because I've already referenced it once, but I did a mock draft for the first time for our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, prideofdetroit.com/subscribe if you want to see it. And I use Pro Football Network's mock draft simulator, and anytime you use any of those simulators, there's going to be some weird things where their rankings don't line up with maybe consensus ones, or it's why I didn't use PFF because theirs tend to be like the furthest off from the convention. But they had Kenneth Grant as like a 36, 37. So he was there every single time I ran that mock. Is he I had kind of worked under the impression that Grant wouldn't be there, but at the same time, he's a nose tackle, and those could drop.
Certainly. Daniel Jeremiah has him ranked 31. NFL Network has him around 35.
Okay.
But that's a tiered system, so it's not, or it's a graded system, so you have to kind of convert it.
Yeah.
Brugler 25, Jordan Reed 29, Todd McShay 30,
Okay.
PFF 17. So
Right.
yeah, he's well, it's weird. Like PFF does go a little bit on the anomaly side on certain guys, but I think they stay in line on others. But yeah, they do have some extremes. Like But I mean, that averages out amongst those guys to like 28, which is
Yeah.
exactly where the Lions picked,
Right.
right? So I do think Kenneth Grant is going to be a player that my guess is he's going to be there because you don't have a ton of defensive tackles go in the first round, and to have four of them would be like a lot.
Yep.
And I think people are going to value. I mean, Mason Graham's going to go first, and I think Derek Harmon is the next guy because of the pass rush. But also, there's going to be guys that absolutely love what Walter Nolan does. But again, that's also pass rush.
Yep.
So I think those three are going to be ahead of a lot of teams. Whereas with the Lions, Kenneth Grant is going to be, I think, more valued than maybe one of the or two of those guys because he, in a lot of ways, could be another Aleem, right?
Right.
And so adding a player like him, I think is certainly an option. And most of the experts that I kind of put trust in, they think that's right in the range where he should go.
All right. Next question here comes from Austin, our good friend Mammoth here. Says, what players that are expected to go in the first round do you not want to see end up with a division rival?
Oh, well, I like for the Lions, I like Kelvin Banks, the tackle out of Texas who could also play guard. I think he'd be a good fit. He reminds me a lot of Darnell Wright, who I absolutely loved a couple years ago, and then the Bears drafted him.
Yeah.
So I think I think he could go to the Bears. I think they could take him at 10.
That early?
I think.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, this is kind of the whispers that I've heard a time or two. I think a guy like Banks, who I like, and there's rumors that the people had been projecting him to be available at 28, and I think he's a guy who could absolutely end up like on the Bears, and then that would just be like, oh. Now I think I've tried to curb my love for his game because I don't want to get hurt again, but he reminds me a lot of Darnell Wright, who I absolutely loved.
That'd be interesting. They've hit the offensive line so hard, but at the same time, some of those are very short-term solutions. That they still need a center, but Kelvin Banks could be a long-term. He could also be available in the 20s for the Vikings or the Packers.
Sure. Geez. They could go either route, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want one of them to get Michael Williams. I wouldn't want one of them to get.
Packers fans really want an edge, and so I feel like my heart's going to get broken when they're on the clock. It almost doesn't matter who they pick. They're going to pick a guy that I probably would have wanted at 23.
Kenneth Grant would do well with them, but I don't think they would take him.
What about? Are you afraid of Janty to the Bears? Because I kind of am a little bit.
Sure.
I don't know if he makes it there to 10, but
yeah.
I don't want to give that weapon to Ben Johnson because we know what he can do with it.
Right. I'd much rather have Ben put most of his faith into the arm of Caleb Williams than to have an elite back that he could couple. So yeah. Let's see.
That's a really good one too. From our chat, I'm gonna credit Loveline69 says Malachi Starks to the Vikings.
Well, I was gonna say Starks too because I love his game.
And they need a safety. Like what's his name is not getting any younger.
Will Johnson to the Packers, that would hurt. I think he would do. Yeah, he's a better player than people are giving him credit for. Man,
I think you're right.
Let's see.
Yeah, Harrison Smith. Yeah, that's what I was talking. That's who I was talking about.
If Minnesota took Booker, that would make me sad.
Ooh, yeah,
that would make me very sad.
I'd have to run and get you a granola bar from the Lions room to make you feel better. All right, enough talking about the other team. Let's finish with a hypothetical here from Jacob M over on our Pride of Detroit Direct subscription newsletter says, who would you be taking if Derek Harmon, Mykel Williams, and Tyler Booker are all there at 28? Which is a dream scenario. I think there's a good chance at least 2 of those 3 are gone. But let's say all 3 are there. Who you taking?
So I have them all ranked right next to each other.
Yeah.
In my board. And I have them ranked Booker, Mykel Williams, and then Harmon. At the same time, I know Brad doesn't believe in positional value.
But you do.
But
but you do. Just say the word.
I do think, yeah. Even though I think Booker is the better player, the better fit, I would, if I had the choice between Mykel and Booker, I would probably take Mykel, which is going against my rankings, but that's
Erik refuses to play his own board.
Well, it's because like they're literally right next to each other.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's so hard to get that edge guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, It goes back to our original conversation, right? Like, if you're talking about this draft class, you can get a starting guard on day 2. You're not going to get a Mykel Williams type of talent on day 2.
Correct.
So yeah, I think I might even put Harmon ahead of Booker, just because I feel like the guard value is not the best there. Even though I know you love Booker, I think I'd go Mykel Williams, Derek Harmon, Tyler Booker in that order.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a harder time. I really think Booker is
special.
If he's the perfect fit for this team.
All right, and with that, we're gonna bid you guys adieu. As I said at the top of the second segment here, plenty of audio, video, and written coverage coming in the next 48, 72, 96 hours with the draft this weekend. So make sure you're following us on Twitch and YouTube if you want live content. Make sure you're subscribed to Pride of Detroit Direct for exclusive content, including videos with me and Erik live from Allen Park. Not live, but from Allen Park. We're not going to stream it. And then, we'll have notes from special writers, all that sort of fun stuff. But for Erik, I'm Jeremy. Thank you all for hanging with us this entire pre-draft process. We're finally almost there. But until then, it's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. We'll hang out for a little bit here. How's the Tiger game going? No one's giving us Tiger updates, which makes me think they're probably losing. We usually have someone feeding us score up. Oh, they already lost. It's over. It's over! How's it already over? This dang baseball games fly by these days. Toledo Walleye. I don't even know what sport that is. I'm assuming baseball. I didn't see Colton's mock. What did Colton do?
Traded up for Mykel.
Love it. I almost did it in my mock. I don't think he made it to 20 though. I kind of just marked 20 as the unofficial. I'm gonna pause the draft when it gets to 20 and then reassess.
I think he traded up to 18.
Oh,
if I'm
really?
not mistaken. Yeah, I'll look it up real fast.
While you're looking, let me thank some people real quick. Akumizer, 21 months, subscribe to the channel, says, "Hola from Panama. What a sports night Thursday is going to be." Don't you know it? I mean, I've got Pistons fever, guys. I never thought it would happen to me, but I went and watched game 1 with Morgan in downtown Detroit at a bar. Then I was just cuddled up last night, all excited about game 2 because I had a hunch they were going to win that game, and they were up by 14 in the 4th, and then it was tied, and I was scared, and then they won. It was great. Nick the Greek 100 bit says John Ledyard and Ali Connolly are super, super low on Malachi Starks, and in particular his read, react, and football IQ. Do you guys disagree, and why?
Hold on. Laura wants to say hello.
What's up?
All right. That's it. You're on. Yep. You're on YouTube now. You can be famous.
I need to turn off Nightbot. Sorry, Ronan. So do you accept that Malachi? There's some Malachi Starks slander coming from John Ledyard and Ali Connolly.
Yeah, he had a tough year. He tried to do like too much this year. Like he got stretched a little bit thin. He gambled a little bit more, and some of his gambling didn't pay off. In a lot of ways, he had a better 23 than 24, and so a lot of people are a little bit soured on him because he gave up more big plays in 24.
Right.
But like you have to be able to look at these players as a whole, right? And like Will Johnson, it's the same kind of thing. Like he had a much better 23 than 24. And so the talent though, like it's there with these guys. Like it really is. And so you have to be able to try and look beyond 23 and say, okay, look, those are flaws, but they're not, you don't see that like throughout the whole career. Right. And then you try and figure out like, well, why? Like, oh, Will Johnson had a hard time because he was injured a lot. Like Malachi why was he doing it? Well, Georgia was struggling and he was trying to do X, Y, and Z, right? And so, it's all part of the process.
Yeah. We don't all have to agree on everything. And I mean, no one's going to have perfect tape out there, right? Like
there are some crazy wide ranges on some players. Like,
right.
It's unbelievable. Some of the like just one analyst is like, this guy is a third rounder, and then there's like four other analysts that are like, he's not draftable,
undraftable.
Right?
Yeah. It's and I think it's like what you just outlined too is a good reminder that year to year changes are not always necessarily about the player, and whether a player succeeds at the NFL level is also not necessarily always about the player. Sometimes you just land with a bad fit. Sometimes you land with a coach that rubs you the wrong way, a team that doesn't support you in the way that your college team did, teammates that don't complement your talent the way it did here or there. And that's a great excuse too. If you're scouting a player here at home and you're like, this guy's a home run, and then he doesn't pan out, just say he went to the wrong team and you can still be right. Joey Harrington, exactly. We were all right about Joey Harrington. He just went to the really bad Lions coaching staff.
Here's my example. Miles Frazier. All right. He's a guard out of LSU. I like him. I think LSU's offensive scheme fits the Lions, and so I tend to often like interior linemen from LSU. They always seem to draw my attention. Daniel Jeremiah has him ranked 61, right? PFF 228. Todd McShay unranked. Like he's not even ranked. Like so. It's just a huge range. Like it's 200, difference in rankings. Yeah. Like, so like, but you see that with a lot. Like,
right.
Even Sanker, who we love.
Yeah.
Like, there's a 50-point range between his lowest ranking and his highest. That's a round and a half.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking about difference between late third to mid fifth. So that's just the nature of the beast here. Like you're going to get wide ranges of players on these players.
Tom Cruise's dad and get this question a lot, asking about why there wasn't inside the den last year. And really the only feedback that I got after as much digging as I could do is just they wanted to do something different. Now, could that have been a masked, order from up top saying like, hey, stop showing us. Like we don't want that level of transparency anymore.
They won awards. They won awards for that.
Right.
That particular episode.
Yes. I will say,
but
yeah,
yes.
like it was not something that they were expecting. I think most people were inside that building were expecting to do it again because of everything you just said. Like they won awards. It's constantly the most viewed thing, and they decided not to do it, and I never really got a solid reason other than they wanted to do something different.
Yeah. As far as why, there could be a variety of different reasons. It could be, like you just said, they didn't want that level of exposure. It could also be, do you remember the amount of work that goes into that one episode? Like it was consuming
Months.
Yes. And they had staff turnover in that department last year.
Yeah,
because
true.
remember when they got hit
Yep.
for the inside the building stuff? And so big turnover, big time commitment. And I think they probably were like, we want to spend our time a little, or, we want to utilize these videographers in different areas,
Right.
as opposed to having them just sit, and do the draft things.
I mean, the other half of that too is like, when you think of the NFL calendar, it hasn't stopped really since the end of the season. It stops after the draft, but it doesn't for those, like if you're doing it inside the den, it doesn't stop for them. It takes another month and a half, which almost takes you to training camp at that point. And so it's just like, well, okay, so these guys are just never going to get a break.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was. Like, I remember one of the guys that I was talking to was like, they were working right up until training camp to try and get it done. Like it's a hard task.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I missed it. That was sad.
Yeah, I think we all missed it. And to be clear, they got the message that you guys missed it. They know. So we'll see if it. I have no idea if it's going to happen this year or not. I think it'll tell you a lot about why they didn't do it last year. Particularly if they don't do it again this year, like that to me tells me it's probably an exposure thing. They don't plan on doing it anymore. I really hope that's not the case. But you never know. Like one thing I wonder is like Brad a little embarrassed with like his reactions?
Excitement?
Yeah.
I don't know. He gets asked about it, and he seems to take it in stride.
Yeah, a little bit.
He did that long interview in February, with one of the local stations where it was like a 30-minute video.
Yeah.
Remember that? Like, and that was brought up in that video, and he took it in stride, talking about it just being passionate and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. Just throwing things against the wall here. Subron, thank you for 5 months on Twitch. Says, I'm happy with whoever Brad picks, but can't wait to watch it. We have a roster full of studs, and you cannot predict which positions get hit with injuries. Best man available. I'm with you. I think they're going to stick to that more than people think. I know I keep saying that, but like a safety in round one wouldn't surprise me. A linebacker in round one wouldn't surprise me. The only positions that would really surprise me in round one are corner, quarterback, tight end.
I'm with you. And then I might have changed my mind on corner after Dane. He's messing with my head.
Nope. You can't. That's going to be a very hard sell for me. Lucky, thank you for the sub on YouTube. And Justin Sane, 37 months on Twitch, says LFG. And we're caught up again. Guys, I think we might be done here. Chats has significantly slowed down. We're getting close to 9:30, which is usually when my body and brain start to turn off because I'm an old man.
I still have an article to write.
Your Tyler Booker article?
Yep. I didn't have a moment by myself to really give it the focus it needed. So once we're done here, I'm hoping my children are asleep, and then I can get that focus on that.
Tomorrow's going to be guard day all over again.
I'd like to get it done if we could.
Just wait until you're 3 Advil to go to bed old. Tell you what, I wake up sore more often than not these days. My neck, my shoulder, my back. It's almost a guarantee one of those things are hurting when I wake up every morning. The rumors of the Cowboys are looking for a trade. What would you like to see between the Lions and the Cowboys?
They traded with them last year.
How high do I have to scroll to find the Dallas? Oh, 13, 12. The 12th overall pick? I want to trade that.
Lot. That's a. What if it's to get your boy?
Michael? Nick the Greek, we did not fire Mike Payton. In fact, I endorsed him for the position that he got. I wasn't. Someone reached out to me for the A to Z position, and I said, I'm happy with where I'm at. Here's a guy that might be interested. I'm only going to hold Mike back. He got an opportunity for his dream job to do this full time. What if it's for their 44th pick? Dallas? Maybe. Question is there going to be that big of a difference between 44 and 60?
I think they might have been suggesting trade back from 28 to 44.
Oh, that makes more sense, maybe. Is that too much, though? Dropping 16 spots?
It's kind of far.
That's a lot.
You'd be kind of at the end of what I'd be hoping for.
Let's see. If you got 44 and 60, and then, I don't know, maybe maybe a third round on top of that. Bless you.
Excuse me.
How much? First of all, so let's do 209 is the value of 28. 44 is 135. So that's about 70 points. So maybe you could pick up Dallas's third round. So would you drop back 16 spots for a third round?
It'd probably be a fourth rounder. Because they'd be top of the fourth. They wouldn't give you top of the third.
Top third of the third. 12th. 12th in the round. That's not top.
No. I'm saying you're more likely to get a fourth instead of a third. Like if you trade back 16 spots to get a fourth.
If someone is trading up to the first round 16 spots, I'm going to make them pay a little extra. I'm getting a third out of them. I'm saying no.
I can tell you right now, I wouldn't trade back for a fourth.
What'd you do for a third? And get, let's say, easier. Man, if I could do that and get like Tui Molau and Tate Ratledge plus a couple of thirds. Now I have 2 thirds. I'd consider that. I mean, the problem is you can't guarantee you're gonna have those picks, right? When you're trading out of 28, you're taking a huge risk that neither of those guys are going to be there when you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
But then you would also have a third round pick to like make sure you get one of the guys that you really like. You could trade up from 40, whatever it was, 44. I don't know. I got very lucky in my mock draft where I got to trade down with the Chiefs. So I dropped 3 spots. I'm realizing now I'm giving away my entire newsletter mock draft. The whole point of that is supposed to be it's exclusive, but I also found that trade very unrealistic. One, because I don't see why the Chiefs would move up 3 spots. 2, because the return was ridiculous. I got a third round pick and I just I'm like, this is unrealistic. I'm going to give them another pick in return because I think it's more realistic. I think I gave them our 5th.
Why did you use that simulator? Just because you wanted to, or?
Just because I thought
you don't like PFF.
No, I don't. Like I said, I think
You don't
PFF,
like PFF
has
rankings.
Yeah, their rankings I think in general are a little bit more outlier-y. The problem with all those mock draft simulators though is like when you have their big board sitting there, you know how the board is going to fall. And so you can just game the system. You're like, oh, well, they have Tate Ratledge as the 150th prospect. I can get him in the 4th round.
Yeah, you just don't play that game.
Yeah. Well, it's hard not to pay attention to it, too.
I
thought about it.
Jason. I don't have a. I usually use PFFs, and I just ignore the fact that Booker's there every single time.
Right.
I just
but that's what I'm saying. Like it's just.
But
that's why everyone's mock draft looks great because the guys that we've been talking about, you can game the system and get them, which is what I talked about at the top of the mock draft I did.
But like, I don't think I've ever done one with PFN that I've liked. Like I don't think I've ever done a mock draft on that simulator and been like, oh, I like this mock draft. I hate every one of them. So it just doesn't line up with mine. I mean, like that's the hard thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So
PFF mock draft simulator lets you use a popular opinion more than the PFF ranking. Maybe I should have checked that out. Can Holmes fleece the Vikings GM again since the Vikings need picks?
Yep.
Maybe. But what opportunities do they have for the Lions?
Trade up.
Trade up 3 spots? 4 spots?
Yeah, give them a 4th. They'll be like, yes.
All right. Deal. Lions don't have a 4th. No, they don't have a 5th. Sorry. That's actually not great. It's about even value on one of the charts.
All right, so then you ask for a 4th next year, and in return, and you get it.
You just swap this year's 4th with a next year's 4th?
Yeah.
Great.
Done.
I'm in.
Thanks, Quasi. Quasi. Was it Quasi or Quasi? I always mess that up.
I don't know. Quasi. I made that up. All right.
It might be. Sounds right.
I think it's time to get out of here, guys. One more reminder that we're going to have a live stream during the NFL draft right here on Twitch or YouTube, wherever you're currently watching this from. So make sure you're hanging out with us, double screening. You got the draft on one screen, you got our live show on the other, and then we're just going to have a whole bunch of content coming in before and after the draft. We still have like 3 or 4 more why the Lions should draft this guy. We got my hat out of random names out of a hat mock that everyone loves. Not really. I just do it for myself. That's coming. Eric, what do you got? You got a depth chart coming up.
I have a few ideas. Yeah, I have the results from the poll that I put out. I'll have a depth chart. When the Lions pick, I'll have a tracker going so that'll be like a bookmark thing. I'm planning on writing the Booker article tonight if I can get it done. And then I have like 4 other ideas, and I'm not sure which one is the best and if I can even get it done. But I have some other ideas I'd like to maybe do if I can. I'll just tease those because I don't want to say I'm going to do it and then not be able to.
Hold on, I'm watching Kirby Joseph. Oh boy, his first pitch did not go great.
Well, he plays safety.
Ball skills, catching, not so much throwing. He didn't ground it. That's the good thing. I think maybe that was it. He was ensuring that it wasn't going to go in the dirt. But look, it ain't go in the dirt. Yeah, so he was just over focusing on not throwing it in the dirt. He kind of overshot it. All right. Anyways, thanks everybody for hanging out tonight, for all the support before then, and I am more than excited to say that we will see you after the